Howdy y'all, remember when this movie took the internet by storm 2 years ago? Everywhere you look there were videos discussing this film, praising it for how new and unique it was. And while I didn't have a YouTube channel back then, trust me, I was just as swept up in the hype as anyone else. Though with every positive review this film received, it also got a negative one in return. I don't know if I've ever seen such a mixed reception of a movie before. It truly seemed like you either loved the film or hated it. I was confused by all the mixed takes the film was getting, so after I spied a copy at Walmart one day, I bought it on the spot. I just had to see what left so many people divisive. And after sitting in the dark for an hour and 40 minutes, I realized that the movie was sorta, maybe, kinda alright. Maybe. And then, much like the internet itself, I forgot about it. I put the Blu-ray on my media shelf where it collected dust for the better part of 2 years, only being budged when I was grabbing something underneath it. I may not have been around when this movie first made its waves online, but now that I do have a YouTube channel and spooky season is in full swing, I say it's time to dust off this steelbook and see if I missed something about this film originally, or if all of those negative reviews were right about it all along. Well, no better place to get started than with Chapter 1, The Plot. Skinamarink follows two young children, Kevin and Kaylee. Everything starts out fine enough with the children being put to bed, but it all goes south when Kevin falls down the stairs while sleepwalking.
But Kevin fell down the stairs and hit his head.
Not long after that, their father goes missing, their mother starts to act strange, all the exterior windows and doors disappear, and objects start to stick to the ceiling. The two, unsure of what to do, take shelter in front of their living room television, playing with toys and sleeping underneath the protection of the CRT's light. After some time passes, and by that I mean at the halfway point of the movie, the mother calls Kaylee upstairs. She goes, only to have a horrific scene play out before her, finding out that her parents have let some sort of evil entity loose on their house. The scene ends with Kaylee catching just a brief glimpse of the threat. Afterwards, the demon becomes far more active downstairs, taking Kaylee's mouth and ears away, and repeatedly maiming and torturing both kids for a seemingly endless amount of time, using its undefined powers to forever toy with the children in disturbing and unique ways. This is the note the movie ends on. Chapter 2. Why I hate this film! Okay, one thing you might have noticed from the short plot summary is that this movie doesn't have much in the way of a story. Now that's not inherently a bad thing in and of itself. There are a lot of movies out there with basic stories that are able to keep an audience entertained, be it through characters, action, or anything else that may happen throughout the runtime. Here, though, the only thing that happens in between plot points is long, unbroken shots of walls in the dark. It's really hard for me to emphasize how much of nothing takes up the runtime of this movie. I know why it's like this, to set up tension and all that, but it goes way too long to be effective. I'm not sitting on the edge of my seat wondering what's about to happen next. I'm nodding off about to fall out of my chair, wondering when something is gonna happen. Now after the halfway point where the demon is really let loose, the film does start to pick back up, but that's after 50 minutes of nothing but shots like this, and this. You don't even know what you're supposed to be afraid of before the demon is revealed, so the first half of this movie just drags in a way no other movie does. I get with shots like this, it's supposed to make you question if something is lurking just out of view of the camera, but that doesn't work when the movie hasn't even told you what you're supposed to be afraid of yet. Yes, there's been some odd things going on, but these shots don't make me fear the unknown, wondering if something's in the dark. They just make me bored out of my mind. These long shots are in the second half as well, but that's after the threat is revealed, so the audience does at least have something to be on the lookout for. The first half, though, tells you nothing, and expects you to be okay with watching walls for the better part of an hour. I suppose it would be a little more tolerable if the movie took its time to better develop the children, but nope. Kaylee and Kevin stay pretty quiet all throughout its runtime. Not only that, but it never shows the kids' faces once in the picture. If these characters were any other age, this would be objectively inexcusable. Following two people that you never get to fully see, that do nothing but sit in front of a TV for most of the picture. No one would be able to take this film seriously if they were 20. 15. Heck, even if they were just 10, it would be indefensible to have them so underdeveloped. But because they are only 4 and 6, people look past that and say, oh, won't someone please think of the children whenever something horrific happens to them? I wish they at least talked a bit more. It would have helped to give them some distinct character and fill the void of silence that is this movie. There's no score here, and the few times the kids do speak, it's all in whispers.
Maybe we should just... I got scared, I couldn't go.
This has the adverse effect of making several scary scenes here come off as cheap. So many of the big scares here have a loud sound effect to go alongside it. I hate this. It's almost like the movie wasn't sure if the imagery itself would be scary enough, so they added in a loud sound to make sure the audience would jump. I think we can all agree it's a pretty cheap thing for other horror films to suddenly go quiet only to suddenly scream at you for a jump scare. Though technically that's all Skinamarink is, an hour and 40 minutes of silence with some loud jumps throughout. With how quiet this movie is most of the time, literally any noise would have made the audience jump. It just comes off as so manipulative while watching, conditioning the audience to expect complete silence throughout only to startle them with a loud noise every now and again. But hey, maybe that was to wake up the audience, cause to reiterate, the vast majority of this film is nothing but footage of walls. It's a struggle to stay awake while watching. It's a test of patience not meant for the faint of heart. I understand wanting to go slowly to build tension, but you can't do that for the entire runtime. Any tension you have built up has loosened away to nothingness as the viewer goes hopelessly numb from the lack of stimulation. I have never been more acutely aware of the fact that I am just sitting in my chair, doing nothing while a movie plays out. It's horrible. I don't understand how anyone could like this movie, let alone praise it like so many did when it was released. Chapter 3. Why, I've been wrong this entire time! It's truly hard for me to be so negative here, because there is a lot that I like about this movie. Going back to the children, yes, they're barely present, and I would have loved some more characterization from them, but still, what we get from these two is some good stuff. They truly act like how young kids would act in a situation like this. Strange things are happening, they don't understand it, so they take shelter in front of something that provides them comfort. That something being the soft glow of a CRT television. It's so depressingly realistic, and the first half of this movie is haunting in a way, just following two young children stuck in a situation that they, much like the audience, don't fully understand. And the scene where the demon is introduced is my favorite part of the movie. Yes, it's slow like the rest of it, but here that slowness is earned because it's effectively building tension. You're forced to watch through the perspective of Kaylee as her parents try and fail to explain what is happening, and it all cultivates in the only glimpse of the demon that you get to see in the film. It's the only part where I feel that the loud sound playing alongside the scare is actually warranted, because the entire scene before was effectively building up to the scare. And speaking of the monster, I like how it acts in this film. It's not just your stereotypical demonic threat, it's shown that all of the horrific stuff that it's doing to the family is just it trying to play. There's a part where Kevin is able to make a call to 911, and it's tragic seeing this 4-year-old call for help, audibly fearing for his life. And almost certainly he's only able to make a call in the first place because the demon allowed him to be able to, playing with him by getting his hope out for help that's never going to arrive. And in case it wasn't clear enough that this is just the monster's doing, the landline transforms into a toy phone in the middle of the call, and the demon laughs at Kevin's misfortune. And even before all of that goes down, the entity is shown trying to play with toys left out in front of the TV, and then watching some of the cartoons on said TV. With it messing with the television like this, learning how to play something over and over again, it makes this moment at the end of the movie all the more horrible. It's now slaughtering one of the children over and over again, replaying that moment indefinitely, all in the name of playtime. I do want to take a moment to address the violence against the children here. I have no doubt that some people may object entirely to what happens to Kevin and Kaylee near the end of the movie, especially considering how young the two leads are here. Personally, I have no qualms with what they go through, because really nothing is ever shown. You never see any violence happen to the children directly, but what's happening to them is implied, and you hear their screams. By not showing what happens, the film avoids being overly disturbing for the sake of disturbing, while also making the scenes all the more horrific. What you imagine here is going to be far more grotesque than anything they could have filmed. And again, while I don't like how the scares are handled, there's one I do have to praise. It's at the tail end of the movie, when a light-faced figure just barely comes into view. The face of someone, the demon most likely, but not enough of it is shown to be truly sure. The face is left vague enough, forcing the audience to fill in the gaps about what it looks like. And then, without using any loud sounds like all the other scares, the movie ends, stopping on a dime, leaving the audience with the uncut tension of this final image. It also reminds me a bit of this part from Halloween, a white face just barely coming into view against a black background. Funny, that's not the only movie I was reminded of while watching. The TV the children sit in front of plays public domain cartoons, and at one point it plays a portion of Bimbo's initiation, which was also featured in the Twilight Zone movie. Now, granted, I'm sure that's just a coincidence. In both cases, the cartoon is clearly just used to represent the whole no escape aspect of both movies. But then, at another part, the monster removes Kaylee's mouth and eyes, and we get this lovely image. It's the most graphic thing we get to see directly happen to the children, and it also happens to be strikingly similar to this character's fate from the Twilight Zone movie as well. I like to think this film was inspired by the Twilight Zone movie, which is weird. Like, yeah, I'll be inspired by the show all you like, but the movie? Okay, I'm getting off topic. Let's start to wrap things up by going over Chapter 4. I still don't know what to think. This is one of those movies I really want to like. It almost pains me that I don't enjoy it. I really like some of the scenes here, but everything is weighed down by how much of it is filled with nothing but dead air. There's just not enough here for me to get emotionally attached to the film. I sympathize for the children, yeah, but again, the movie uses their young age as a crutch for not giving them proper characterization. I downright adore some of the imagery at the end, but I had to watch an hour and 30 minutes of walls to get there. I said it before, but I'll say it again. Any tension this film builds up melts away as you just grow hopelessly numb to the nothingness on display. But at the end of the day, it's hard for me to be so critical here. I haven't mentioned it yet, but this picture was the sole creative work of Kyle Edward Ball, making this movie on a budget of only $15,000, which... okay, to be honest, I'm surprised it even cost that much. Again, 70% of the footage here is just walls. Is $15,000 just the base cost any movie goes for nowadays? If they actually showed the kids' faces, would that have been an extra grand? But anyways, this film was his unbridled artistic vision. And that's what Skinamarink is. Art. It's not some soulless corporate vehicle that's interchangeable with all the other high-budgeted movies being cranked out of Hollywood. It's the sole artistic vision of one man, and it's because of that it's so unique. I truly respect the experimental filmmaking on display here. There's never been a movie like it before. I'm honestly really glad that Skinamarink went on to be such a great success. He made the movie for less than what used cars sell for, and it became big enough to where I was able to buy a steelbook of it at Walmart of all places. I'm glad it became so popular, and I do respect it for being so different, but that doesn't mean I like it. I honestly don't think I'll ever watch this movie again. I'm putting this one back on the shelf, and there it will stay for the end of time, or until I sell it on eBay, whichever comes first. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and until next time, goodbye y'all.